Hi, I'm Natalie Ryan Hebert. I'm founder of the Red Tent program for premenstrual dysphoric disorder and rapid transformational therapy practitioner. And I'm here today with my lovely client, Jess, who's over in London, um, to talk about her experience of working with me in the Red Tent. Thank you, Jess, for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So the first question I have for you that I'd like you to share is where you were at when you first discovered the work that I do, or what was it that you were going through that made you want to reach out?
Absolutely. So, in short, I actually came across, I believe it was on Instagram. I had come across, I followed a lot of PMDD sufferers and sort of meme pages and everything. I came across the program, and I think at the time, this is about a year ago. So I knew it was something I needed to do. And I think part of me maybe wasn't ready. So I did a bunch of research into it. I even booked calls with you. And on the surface, I was so ready to dive in. But something about it just really resonated with me. Part of it was your message, your professionalism, but something about it was just different. I think this is sort of the only program, sort of maybe in existence that I've found at least, that offers this kind of in-depth, you know, result-oriented sort of healing. You've got the testimonials to prove it. So it was just a very professional presentation. And I just knew that it was absolutely going to work. Yeah, and it took me about a year to, maybe a bit less than a year to actually get signed up and everything.
Mm.
Um, and I told myself, I'll give myself a few months, look around, see if there's anything else, but there's no program like this.
Yeah, no, I don't think there is, as far as I'm aware. I think what makes it unique is that I've been through PMDD myself,
Yeah,
and I really believe, especially now. I mean, I always had this conviction. That's why I started doing this work. That PMDD is related to the subconscious deep beliefs that are triggered in women who are highly sensitive when the hormones shift. That's basically my belief in
absolutely.
a nutshell. And now that I've worked with dozens of women around the world now with PMDD and seen the change and the transformation, I'm very convinced that I'm onto something pretty
Yeah,
important.
I would agree.
Yeah. So, what were you experiencing in yourself, if you don't mind sharing, and don't have to
Sure.
go into great detail, but um, symptoms wise?
Absolutely. So I would be classified as having very severe PMDD from, what my doctors have told me throughout the years. I think I've had it about 14 years up until now. So I would have the kind of extreme symptoms of, suicidal ideation to, physical pain, muscle tension, migraines, um, like brain fog and confusion. I'd even find trouble like making sentences sometimes. I mean, it was like a different person, which, the symptoms varied depending on what was going on in my external life. But there was always something underlying there that was just this monster that would kind of eat me alive every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Um, and really just kind of, I was living a half life. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it takes over from the luteal phase, it is like
yeah, you're just out
Jekyll and
of
Hyde.
commission. Yeah,
Yeah, half your life is sort of is hijacked, isn't it?
absolutely.
It's yeah, and it's so difficult to explain, and there's not a lot of help out there for it.
Nope.
Even if you go to the doctor, all they can do is treat the symptoms that they see on the surface
Hmm.
with either medicating with antidepressants or just trying to change the cycle, remove the have
Yeah,
a hysterectomy, just take
just
the
yeah,
whole thing
absolutely.
out
It's very
altogether. So they're
extreme.
very
It's very
extreme,
extreme. There
and
was no sort
often
of medium.
no, and can make it worse too. I hear a lot of clients come
Hmm.
to me saying, I've tried birth control, but that just made things even worse. So it's a
Hmm.
bit like Russian roulette with the birth control option. You just don't
Absolutely.
know, is this going to be good or bad? And
Yeah.
so, how did you find? So, the Red Tent program is 8 weeks long, and we do rapid transformational therapy combined with metacognitive coaching and sort of mindset, self love work. So it's quite well rounded. We work on the
Mm.
subconscious and also on the conscious mind. How would you describe what your experience of the red tent was like?
It was brilliant. I was very like sort of apprehensive to get involved, to be vulnerable, to dive into. I almost didn't want to look at the kind of monsters that were buried within me, but
Mm.
not only is the program so gentle, it eases you into it. There's never a point where you're going to be, you might be overwhelmed, but I just found the whole thing to be incredibly well organized, very simple, very easy to follow. We have this weekly coaching call, which has actually was the thing I was looking forward to the least, was getting in front of other people, having to talk and share your experiences. But that was probably, next to the RTT, was the most helpful for me personally, because I've been doing sort of metacognitive psychology and all sorts of conscious mind therapies for many, many years. So
Yeah.
for me, it was really good practice to get back into them and actually commit to doing them for 8 weeks. But
Mm.
the RTT itself was life changing. And then having the group aspect of someone to confirm you are not the only person going through this, and actually we're getting through it together,
Mm.
was absolutely life changing.
Yeah, I love it too, the weekly calls. It's so good because you
Like
each have
magic.
so much wisdom as well, so much wisdom
Thanks.
to share with each other. So it's this beautiful group.
It's just this energetic sort of like fountain of, it's we can never predict what we're going to speak about, but it's
It's so
always relevant.
It is,
Yeah,
and there almost
it's
seems
pretty
to be there's a
magical.
theme that we have each week that's sort of like, "Oh gosh,
Hmm.
that's the same for me," and
That we all went through this. Yeah, it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah, there's
magical
a real
actually.
yeah, beautiful synergy that comes
Yeah,
to it and, synchronicity and
definitely.
yeah, fantastic. So, yeah, so the RTT, yeah, it is a very deep therapy, and what did you discover about those monsters that you thought were back there? What were the monsters really?
Nothing. They were just protection mechanisms. It was me, my little self, protecting me and
Mm,
not really realizing that it's sort of, it's like a Russian doll. So if you're the Russian doll and then you pop out and then that self says, I'm going to protect this self so that you don't get hurt anymore. And then, but now I've popped out and I'm now this big Russian doll trying to fit into this little, little one. And
mhm,
it's just, I think the RTT takes the emotion and the pain and the anguish out of the situation. And it's just, you look at it objectively without that emotion, just say, oh, it just is what it is. It's just this little protection mechanism that is harmless. It's just trying to keep you safe. And
mm,
that was, I mean, I think just knowing that in and of itself, when you have PMDD, you are not, I can't speak for everyone, but I think there's a lot of self loathing and a lot of, it's obviously me and there's something wrong with me. But
mm,
actually, no, it's just you're trying to do the best you can with the resources you had maybe when you were younger. You
mm,
know,
yeah.
it's a really life changing revelation.
Because that's something that's wrong with me. That's something that you start to believe very, very early on, and it's like a lens, and
Mm.
you don't know the lens is there, so you just make everything match what you believe. You prove yourself right, but it's wrong,
Absolutely.
and it was never true in the first place. And I think when you're able to bring your adult awareness back to that little child in the scenes that you go back to in RTT, and you can see it with different eyes and go, "Oh gosh, look what I've interpreted from that when I was 3
Mm.
years old. I thought it was my fault, or I thought that meant there was something wrong with me." But when you
And
see
you're
it
just
now,
three.
yeah, you of course you're completely innocent in the
Mm.
whole thing, and it's not you. But children do internalize because they want to keep the parent perfect. Because the
Hmm.
parent's the one looking after them. It feels too scary for the parent to have something wrong. It's better that I have something wrong because at least it's in my control. So,
Absolutely.
so that's how we get stuck with all of this internalized unworthiness.
Mm.
And it's just being able to undo that that really does um, change everything. So,
I think it's important to note, in my research, I found that I want to say it was around 78% of diagnosed PMDD sufferers. It's actually not genetic. So, where I would have thought, I inherited this from my mom, there's nothing I can do about it, I'm very powerless in this situation.
yeah.
Actually, it's not, there are very, very low genetic factors. And actually, what the science and the research says that they've been doing since, the 80s, but, hasn't been published until very, very recently, is that actually more than 80% of sufferers have experienced some traumatic event in childhood or were around that even in the womb, and so they develop this. And when I found that statistic before I joined RTT, that was the one that set me over the edge and said, wow, okay, then I really have a chance to fix this. So the
Mm,
most important thing that anyone watching this could take away is that you are not powerless, it's not genetic, it's not out of your control. You
mm.
can heal it, and you don't have to live like this. So
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah. I think to say the sentence, I have PMDD, like I have cancer or I have
Hmm.
diabetes, it's not
That's a
like
life
that.
sentence. Mm-mm.
No, yeah, and it's, it's a label that's been given to a list of symptoms, but these are the symptoms that have a root cause. And the root
Precisely.
cause is, in my belief, unresolved trauma being
Mm.
triggered by a hormonal shift and exacerbated by the sensitivity. The only thing wrong with you is that you're a highly sensitive, empathetic person. That's probably
Absolutely.
what the only thing that does set you apart, if anything. If you want to look for
And that's
something
a
genetic or something that makes you
absolutely.
different.
And that's a
Um,
gift,
and
I
it is
think.
a gift, but it can feel like a curse when you feel your own stuff so deeply. So the key is not in getting rid of the sensitivity and numbing yourself out.
Mhm.
It's not in removing the female cycle altogether and having a
Mm-mm.
hysterectomy.
Which I almost did. I was very close. And this program was my last hope before the double hysterectomy,
Wow.
actually.
And you don't
I
have
was
children yet, do you, Jess? So
I'm
that would have
25,
been.
so I had to make that decision. So this was a tough
Mm,
year to actually sit down
mm.
with my partner and say, look, we're either gonna cancel our future and have to adopt if that's what we ever wanted to do. And to make a decision like that when you're with your partner for a year and you're only 25 years old was I knew something had to change
Wow.
instant, like very
Yeah,
soon.
what a spot to be in. Yeah. So that's all sort of, that's back on the table. You don't have to be a mother if you don't want to,
No,
but
but I could.
but you could be, right? And your uterus is intact. And
Mm,
and
I'm so grateful for
how
that.
are you now? We're only just coming to the end of the program, and I find that the work, it has a positive snowball effect. So I imagine when I follow
Absolutely.
up with you again in 6 months, it's going to be even better. But
Hmm.
how are you feeling in yourself now? What changes, and what, if you can try and explain what you've been through, where you've come to in the 8 weeks that we've worked together now?
Sure. So I hope that in the beginning of this sort of interview, I've sort of articulated that, I spent, I would say more than 10 years, I mean, thinking that I was going to die before I didn't think I would live to be 21. So when I hit 18, that was a revelation. When I hit 21, I was like, oh my God, I'm still here, and as I got older, yeah, I knew that I wasn't going to die young, which was a massive relief. But the symptoms I ended up just living with and sort of numbing and just literally putting a band-aid on with birth control, with antidepressants. And I just thought to myself, I'll be on this for the rest of my life, but at least I'm alive. So that was my compromise. And then now, and it's only been, I mean, what, 2 months? So going from my physical symptoms to being absolutely disabled, I mean, having to take time off work, using all my sick days within a few months. The physical pain, I would have muscle spasms so bad where I'd have to take some sort of like sedative just to keep my body from almost like seizing, but it wasn't sort of neurological. And I can't even explain the pain. And just, every person in my life had to be made aware that there's something wrong with me, which is why I can't hang out with you all the time, or why I can't commute to the office every week, and things like this, where it was really sort of starting to spread throughout my life.
Mm.
I mean, within less than the 8 weeks, I mean, within 4 weeks, all of the physical vanished. I mean, almost all of it, and then some. So that's still improving. Within, the mental and emotional aspect started to heal right away. Now I can say my symptoms, I don't actually know when my cycle, I don't know where I am in my cycle at all, which is a massive sort of indicator. And I would say the most profound effect is the way that you start to act in relationships and act in your life. Suddenly I can see 5 years down the road and think, yeah, I can start planning for that. Whereas previously I would be like, I just need to survive this month and see if I can even make it another month or 3 months or something.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think when you come to the end of that 8 weeks, it's not the end, it's literally just the beginning. So the 8 weeks is kind of like, doing the foundation, doing the prep work before you put on your foundation. And it's like, now we're going to do the makeup, which is, you know, just like you said, just snowballs and gets better and better and better.
Mm. And you've got the tools, or it's like laying the foundation for a house. And you're like, okay, look at this.
Exactly.
I'm ready to build. And here, I've got all the tools here in my backpack, and I've got all the
Hmm.
materials I need. And
Now
now
you're
I know
ready.
just what to do. We love our metaphors, don't we, Jess?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So that is what it's like. Instead of going, oh, I couldn't possibly build anything on this. It's just mush and
No, It would
you
just
know, the
crumble.
swamp, right? That's probably how it felt. But now the swamp, we've drained the swamp.
We have.
and and
And
we
you
built a
can lay a
beautiful
foundation.
foundation, and now you're beginning to build on it, and there's a
Mm.
future, and there's something to be hopeful for.
And
It's
I think the
just
best
amazing.
thing about it is once I think if you have PMDD, you almost cannot you can get a snippet of what your life could be like if you didn't have symptoms, but then you have 2 weeks of sort of doom and gloom where you have to then spend the good 2 weeks building it back up, apologizing for not responding to people's messages for 2 weeks, and then,
Mm,
it's a vicious cycle, whereas now and before I started this program, I said to myself, "If I could even have 1 month if of my life without symptoms, that would be enough to, you know, make me feel hopeful and start to grow relationships." And the thing is, once your health is better, that's miraculous. But the even better part of that is the fact of the new relationships you can cultivate because you're a new person, or I should say, you are you that you weren't necessarily allowed to be because you were so inhibited by your symptoms. So
mm,
I've been this person all along, but I couldn't bring her out or express her because I was so almost disabled by
yeah.
this condition that I labeled it as my condition, and there's just so much ownership around that
Mm.
that's very so limiting.
You become identified with it, and it starts as a
Absolutely.
protection, like you were saying. There's always protective things in place, which don't seem that they're hurting you, but they think they're there to protect you, which you understand once you start doing
Absolutely.
the work. It's a bit difficult to explain that in one
Mm.
sentence now, but
Yeah.
it starts out as the protection, but it ends up as your prison, doesn't it? It's like a
Yeah.
hermit crab climbs into a little shell and says, "Good, I'm safe now." But then the
Yeah.
hermit crab grows. It's like you're a babushka doll.
Then the shell. Yeah.
Analogy. You're an adult now, stuck in the protections of maybe a 3 or 5 year old, 7 year old,
Mm.
and it is very debilitating. Instead of being able to really just say, "I'm actually an adult, and I'm the parent in my own life. I decide
Absolutely.
now, and I'm not that dependent little child anymore that needs to be something in order to survive in the family
Mhm.
I'm in, or at the school that I'm at, or whatever it happens to be." Um, so you can, as the adult, drop all of that, but it's not something we can just do consciously. We can't just
No.
sort of sit in the mirror and go, "I'm good enough." It doesn't sink in because the
No.
subconscious belief is like, "No, you're not. What are you trying to tell
Yeah.
yourself that for?" So we need to get to it at the subconscious level to change it there. And then it's easy to take that stuff in because it matches. You can
Absolutely.
say, "I love myself," and mean it.
Because
No, it's
the
true.
I
Mm,
think so I had sort of learned and studied sort of the subconscious and conscious mind from maybe age 11 because my dad was sort of goal setting, really great in that sort of arena. So I have known about this my entire life, and I think that's for me when I had been looking for more than 10 years for a way to quickly access the subconscious mind, and I knew sort of hypnotherapy could do that. I knew things, but you couldn't just necessarily go to a hypnotist or something where you can just get access to that space without being trained. What are you even looking for? What are you trying to fix there? So as soon as I even heard about RTT, I heard about RTT before the this program, and as soon as I put two and two together, I thought this is the key.
mm,
This is the answer, and it absolutely was. So
mm.
it's that subconscious unlock that door, and you can absolutely heal everything.
Yeah. And the wonderful thing about RTT is we're not just sort of getting at a subconscious level and planting some nice seeds, which
Mhm.
I'm not. Some hypnotherapy is like that. It's just, let's just say a whole lot of nice things and
Yeah,
say
and
it to
maybe
the
make a new
subconscious.
pathway and hope it sticks. And
Yeah, but
yeah,
really, you need to you need to disconnect those old neural pathways
absolutely.
by having the subconscious mind go, "Oh, that's really not true." And I use that
Hmm.
analogy about Santa Claus a lot, that once you find out Santa Claus isn't real, you can't go back to believing in him anymore.
No,
And
of course not.
that's what has to happen in the RTT session,
Mm,
that belief that was so true and so strong for you needs to be questioned so deeply that it breaks and it doesn't work anymore as a belief. Um,
absolutely.
and
And if
that's
you
and
look at
then you
the
can plant the new beliefs, because if
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
existing one and it's been there longer, then it's going to win out. So
It's a
you
really good way of looking at it, like, the path less taken. So if you have 2 paths in a wood and you've got the very open path you've been treading your whole life, there's no bush in the way, And the new beliefs are like this very skinny sort of footpath that only one person can fit on, and it's covered with
Mhm.
leaves or
Yeah.
bushes. And that's the best way to think of it, is your neural pathways are actually sort of like super highways. So, you've been running on this 6-lane highway and trying to switch over to a, 1-lane back road made of
Yeah.
cobblestones. And that's where, it's very hard to do that on your own, even if
Yeah.
you're, been doing this for your whole life, and,
Mm.
goal setting and subconscious programming and, even meditation. But again, it's,
Mm.
what we're doing is so profound. And like you said, you're absolutely, you're not even making clearing the second path, you're destroying that old path. So it
It's
just
not an
can't work
option.
anymore.
Yeah, it's not an
Yeah,
option to even take anymore. Yeah. And
exactly.
it is, you really, we can do a lot of work on our own, but you need someone to hold that space so that you can
Yeah,
just let go, and so the conscious mind doesn't come in and try and
yeah,
help. You need
yeah,
someone to hold the space, to be the container, so that the subconscious can come up. I mean, I know a lot of stuff, but I don't, when I need to have something cleared, I have RTT for myself.
yeah.
I don't do it myself. I go to somebody I trust to do it for me.
Yeah.
And so I can let go and someone can hold that space for me. So um, there's a lot we can do on our own, but there comes a
Mm,
point where you just have to, where you need
yeah,
someone to give you the space to and be able
absolutely.
to do the healing work with you.
I would absolutely agree.
Yeah. So if, there's probably right now some woman somewhere in the world watching this going, oh my gosh, this is just like me. And oh,
Mm,
this is probably making her feel hope that there is a different life available. What would
mm.
you, from your heart, what would you say to her?
I would say no matter what is going on in your life, whether it be financial, personal, you could be doing 2 courses at school and working full time with 4 kids. When you make this and yourself a priority, I mean, 8 weeks is nothing. So, yeah, I just think if you can picture the rest of your life being an open road because you could just focus for this 8 weeks, I mean, I would I would drop everything and do anything to make that possible. And I
Mm,
would say that that's exactly what you have to do. No matter how hard it seems, you just have to make it happen.
yeah.
You don't have to do it right away, but like me, I mean, it took me 9 months, but
Mm,
I knew that this was my goal and this was the way I was going to achieve it. So when you decide, right, I'm ready to fix this,
yeah.
you'll move mountains to make it happen.
No, that's so true. It is, because that power really is with you,
Yeah.
and everything.
It's
This is going to
scary.
sound it's such a cliche. Everything you need is within you, but it
So
really
true
is.
though.
You have all the answers. I just help you to get to them.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really, you're the hero of your life. I say this to every client. That you have to be on that white horse, like, I'm coming.
With the
It's got to
flag.
be you, because it's the little girl in you that needs the adult
Yeah.
you to
Yeah,
come and
exactly.
rescue it. I'm not going to do it. You're going to. I'm just going to facilitate the rescue
Facilitate it.
mission.
Mm.
And that's exactly what you did, and you were ready. And it's good that you waited until you were ready. So you've got to be right for it. You've got to be ready for it. So
Mm.
that's true. And whenever I sort of have a preliminary chat with a client, I sort of look for that readiness. I don't want to drag someone to their own healing journey. It's got to
Exactly.
be, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm saddled up, let's go.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think that's why for me it did take me so many months. I had to actually I kind of, there's a stubbornness and there's a, it's almost like if you told someone you've got diabetes and it's an autoimmune disease and you cannot, it's incurable, it's your pancreas doesn't function properly. Well, you're of course going to believe that. So when I came across this notion that actually, that's not true at all. It might be autoimmunity or something considered these, fluctuations in response to hormones, but that's just the scientific side of it. So I was completely neglecting the emotional, spiritual side of things. Whereas actually, once I removed all the emotional crap, I mean, the autoimmune disease that was incurable suddenly isn't happening anymore. My skin's clear. The weight that I've been carrying in my midsection for 20 years is actually dwindling.
mm,
So it's like a cascade of actual physical effects as well.
yeah,
It's
body,
crazy.
mind. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're not protecting. There's this
No.
whatever you were
It's
holding on to
amazing.
there is allowed to be released. And yeah, there's so many things. I could tell you 100
15
stories.
years I've been
Yeah.
carrying this little pouch of chub. And, oh, it's crazy.
Wow. Gosh.
And I've just been
Okay.
storing this protection of like, don't harm my sensitive insides. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
actually now I'm strong and my skin's clear, my hair's growing. There's just so many things that are, you could say they're not correlated, but they absolutely are.
Mm, mm.
Because if you look at the physical body, I mean, it's all just chemical responses. So, we can take away that catalyst. Sorry, my vacuum's just gone off. Oh, we've got this little robot vacuum. So, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it's fantastic. I mean, I never say, "Oh, I'm gonna cure all your physical problems," but the stories I
Never.
could tell you that the physical issues, adenomyosis,
The
migraine,
IBS as well, the
breast
migraines,
swelling, so many things
so many things.
that calm down or clear when the
Mhm.
emotional side is sorted out. So,
I think it's
well,
important to mention, I mean, I couldn't really leave the house when at certain times because my IBS was so bad. And then within a few weeks, you asked me how I was doing, and I thought to myself, "Oh, I'm absolutely fine. I didn't even notice that."
mm,
They just vanish. And it's not like in the beginning, you never advertise that. You never, and there was never a point where you said, I can cure or I can, it was nothing like that. It was, here's this program, here's the results. And if you want to embark on your own journey with it, then, we'll be here to guide you and hold that space for you. And I think that's the difference between selling someone a dream versus offering them a new way.
mm.
So
Oh, thank you so much for your sharing here today, Jess. It's so lovely to see all
thanks.
these changes in you, and you're absolutely deserving of it.
Thank you.
Everything you've really put the commitment into yourself, and now here come all the results for you because you've really owned your life. And that's
Thank you.
wonderful. And I'm looking forward to seeing everything that continues to positively snowball for you from here.
Thanks.
So thanks so much for sharing with
No,
me today.
thanks for having me. Take care.
So I hope you were inspired by Jess's beautiful healing story of the journey she took to really go in and heal herself from the inside out, and everything that's followed since. So if you'd like to learn more about the program, the Red Tent program, there's a link in the comments or somewhere below there. You can click and get through to my website, natalieryanhebert.com, and read about the Red Tent program. And do feel free to comment here or reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks for watching.